Tonight, a special Granada Reports on knife crime, one of the most serious issues we'll ever face.
Tonight, we reveal how shockingly easy it is to buy the most dangerous weapons. And we hear from the man lucky to be alive after he was stabbed by a complete stranger on his way home.
And with a panel of expert guests, we'll be asking, what can we do to try to stop more deaths and serious injuries? Good evening. Some say it's a crisis. Knife crime is certainly at a record high in the northwest. It has doubled in 4 years. Latest figures reveal more than 6,500 offences in 12 months. That is the most in any region outside London.
There were more than 17 serious knife crimes here every day, including robbery and murder or manslaughter. And knives or bladed instruments were used in almost a third of all homicides in the northwest.
Sadly, it shows no sign of letting up. Only last night, a man and a woman were attacked with a knife in Liverpool city centre. Rob Smith is at the scene for us tonight. Rob.
The pair were set upon in this alleyway down the side of a car park in the heart of Liverpool, 10 to 8 last night. The man stabbed in his buttocks, the woman slashed across her face, both taken to hospital. She has later been released. He is still being treated tonight. Detectives say this was a targeted attack. It wasn't a random act, and their attacker fled in a white car. That car matters. They're asking drivers who are in and around this area, Mount Pleasant in Liverpool, if they saw it or have dash cam footage of it. It's worth noting tonight that while we're telling you about this knife crime, there are so many that we just cannot tell you about. Lots and lots that the authorities do not publicise because they only let the media know and the public know about the most serious events. And of those that we do know about in 2020 so far, all 8 days of it, 8 people have been injured, 1 has been killed.
OK, Rob Smith in Liverpool, thank you. Now, all too often, it's our young people involved in knife crime, either as victims or perpetrators.
So where are all these knives coming from? Here are some that we found frighteningly easy to buy online. Why could anyone consider these suitable to end up in the hands of children?
Leisha McNally has been investigating just how easy it is to buy a weapon that is potentially lethal.
A Wednesday morning in South Lancashire. 2 17-year-olds leave a shop. They've just bought these.
That is massive.
In different circumstances, these could be 5 knives out on the streets in the hands of children. Though these boys aren't trying to break the law, they're working with the police. We've hidden their identity as they regularly test how many shops will sell a blade to someone under 18.
Can I get another one?
No age, no ID.
So I didn't challenge you in any way at all?
The law on knife buying is clear-cut, but it seems shopkeepers' knowledge is not. Another test at another shop and another fail.
You could do some damage with those, couldn't you?
No ID, no how old you are.
Easy as that?
Yeah.
Right.
Of the 9 shops we visited, 4 sold knives to the teenage testers. All of the shopkeepers told us they didn't realise the purchasers were underage. That's 18 blades bought in 3 hours, results that worry the young buyers.
It's a bit scary really, isn't it? It's surprisingly easy to get older knives for people under 18.
It shouldn't be so easy to be able to purchase something that can hurt someone or kill someone. You know, it's worry every time that you step out the door.
For police, it's a chance to educate shopkeepers about the law.
Do you know what age you have to be to purchase a knife? To sell a knife to somebody, the person has to be 18 or over. Err on the side of caution. If they don't look at least 25, ask them for some identification.
The shops won't face legal action, though police will carry out further tests. It's hoped operations like this will help dramatically cut the number of underage knife sales. But this is not just a high street problem. We wanted to find out how easy it is for young people to buy knives online. Using a debit card that any 16-year-old could apply for, a few clicks were all it took for us to order 3 potential weapons after websites failed to carry out the legal age checks. All delivered like any harmless package. 2, including this machete, were sent to a parcel drop box with no need to show any ID. And this one was simply dropped off on a doorstep. A few minutes' work with possibly lifelong consequences.
I've never felt pain like this before, and I held onto my head and my neck because I felt as if my head was going to fall off.
Nasser Kurdi is an orthopaedic surgeon. 2 years ago, he was stabbed in a random attack. The knife came within 2 centimetres of being a deadly blow.
It just missed my spinal cord. If you're stabbed in that manner that I was stabbed, which is a lunging attack with a knife, a large kitchen knife, being driven at high speed into your neck, the chances of missing everything, and literally everything, is probably less than 1 in 100. I consider myself as literally having been given another chance to live. It was that close.
But when dangerous weapons can be bought so easily, other victims may not be so lucky. We showed Mr. Kurdi the knives we found online.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked at that. I don't think these youngsters realise how much damage you can cause by knives like these. I mean, this particular knife, this one is shocking. This is actually devastatingly shocking. It's got a strip in the middle here. When you have that empty strip and you struck this into the chest, that accelerates the fatality of the person. I mean, this knife is designed to kill. For a young person to be going around carrying this knife in their pocket, which can be concealed, I'm devastated by this. That is something that I did not expect to see. I've seen machetes before, and I've seen these knives, but that is, for me, that's a joke.
A joke which, in the wrong hands, all too often ends with a deadly punchline. Leisha McNally, ITV News.
We're joined by a special panel tonight, including Byron Heighton, whose own brother was stabbed to death. Byron, let's start with you. Were you surprised watching that report at just how easy it was for young people to get hold of a knife?
Not really. I've been doing this job for a while now, and I speak to kids as young as 9 up to 18 and sometimes older every day. This is what I do. It's my full-time job. So I'm not surprised. No, culture has changed. Knife crime is now culture. It's not a specific person or a specific race or male or female. It's culture, and culture's changed in other ways also. And these companies would rather have the money in the till than check the ID. It's just a vicious environment we live in, and that adds to the culture, which then the outcome of that, unfortunately, is hate crime, violence, terrorism, knife crime. It's just that we live in a toxic environment nowadays.
But Sarah Heath, as Chief Inspector of Cheshire Police, this isn't good enough, is it? I mean, not checking IDs of people who are buying knives. I mean, surely we've got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. A lot of major stores have took some real social responsibility on this issue and have stopped selling single-use knives, for example, and most shops will do and should do the Challenge 25 policy, absolutely. But the issue with knives is more serious than where you get them from, because people will shoplift a knife if they want one, regardless of whether there's a Challenge 25 policy in place. So I think it's the whole culture we need to change, because if you want to get a knife, they are everywhere.
One viewer in Liverpool got in touch with me to say that they would like to see a 10-year sentence for anyone carrying a knife and longer for someone who uses one. Do you think that we should toughen up in that way?
I think absolutely we need to be relentless in stopping anybody who carries a knife to cause harm with other people, absolutely. But again, there's a lot of people that carry knives for various other reasons. It's a complex issue, and there's a lot more needs to be done rather than just the enforcement side of it.
Nicola Misery, you're a trauma surgeon. You know, you try to save the lives of these people who are taken into hospital with knife wounds. What are the worst things that you've had to deal with?
I think without a shadow of a doubt, the worst of everything we deal with in the whole sphere of knife crime is a knife trauma is talking to the mother and father of a patient we haven't managed to save, who hasn't survived, and that's like a bomb has exploded. It's an awful feeling, not just for us, obviously for the families concerned, but that effect on us as healthcare professionals, as doctors and nurses, lasts months, if not years. And it hasn't even talked about the effect on the families and the mum and the dad of that individual themselves.
Ginny McKenzie, what impact has knife crime had on your life?
Well, knife crime, well, I've just come back to Manchester as well, and when I arrived, a young boy was stabbed and murdered in a local area, which kind of sent me on my journey to kind of, want to put a halt to knife crime and find out what the issue really is. And one thing I would like to say as well, as you said as well, is that knife crime has no age, it has no gender, it has no social demographic. It is a UK issue. And I think for me personally, going to a micro level of my community, we need more resources and more. The youth centres have been slashed. I say, what are we doing servicing the youth? How are we servicing them? How are we, connecting with them? Because for me, that's where we had our social bonds.
Lots of really good issues raised by all of you. Thank you very much for starting us off with that. We'll come back to you very shortly, but later we're going to check out the new kitchen knives developed in Liverpool, specially manufactured so that they can cut, but they can't stab anyone. Before that, though, many crimes involving knives don't get any media coverage at all, but there are families and real people behind each one of them, people whose lives are changed forever, of course.
So let's meet Daniel Morehouse from West Lancashire. He was stabbed by a complete stranger who tried to rob him on his way home. He knows he's lucky to be alive. With pictures of him being treated in hospital, this is Daniel's story.
I was just in the pub having a drink. I was walking home. When I was walking close to home, going under one of the underpasses, two people came up from behind me, tried to grab me watch, and then one of them stabbed me in the side, straight into my kidney. I didn't feel the stab wound, I just felt wetness. The kids heard me screaming outside and got the mum to come out, and that's where she came out and looked after me while she phoned the ambulance. When I was taken to hospital, it became apparent that I had massive internal bleeding. So I had to go for surgery for 3 hours. I was told that there'd be permanent damage to the kidney. You'd get constant pains down the side, and it'd be like really sharp pains. I was still having nightmares. Not that being stabbed, but just seeing knives and stuff like that. Like my mum's got really bad anxiety, it's made it a lot worse. I'm her only son, so obviously seeing me like that, it still affects her now. Yeah, I don't know who done it, and I could be walking past her every day, and I haven't got a clue because the police were unfortunately didn't able to arrest anyone. So it's not a nice feeling. I could be walking along the street and they're there, but I wouldn't have any idea who it is. You just never think that would happen to you, and unfortunately it has. I was so close to dying. It could have gone the opposite way. I wouldn't have been sat here, and that's the scary thing about it.
I think Daniel's story really brings it home. Nicole, Daniel owes his life to you and your team as a trauma surgeon. You've spoken about this problem reaching epidemic proportions. So what is the impact on other patients?
The numbers in the national figures for knife trauma and health-related incidents has just gone through the roof. We've had an increase of almost 35% from 2012 to 2018 in terms of national admissions for people coming in who've had knife injuries. There's been a 55% increase in teenagers who've come in, who've been admitted with knife-related incidents. So it's a huge problem nationally. On the individual hospital, one patient who comes in who's had a life-threatening wound, a knife wound that's bleeding, has a huge impact. There's a ripple effect throughout the hospital that lasts several days, from a patient who needs 10, 15 specialists treating them, who are called from other areas who could have been were treating other patients. If that individual needs an operation, that takes a space in the emergency operating theatres. Someone else has to wait for their operation. There might be an elective operation cancelled for someone who's been waiting months for their operation, and so on. And this happens on a daily basis.
The impact is massive, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Sarah Heath from Cheshire Police, you've got some of the lowest levels of knife crime, which is why it's really interesting to hear from you how you've managed to do that.
Yeah, when you're talking about knife crime, I think because of the devastating consequences it does have, you can't really focus on the numbers. Yes, we are one of the lower forces in the country for knife crime, but we've seen the devastation it causes, and just one knife-related murder like the one we had in Runcorn recently, it devastates a whole community. So it's, you know, we've all got to work on this anyway, regardless of the levels, because it's so devastating.
Runcorn, that incident alone has led to a massive drop in knife crime in that area, hasn't it?
It has, and that's, I think it's a collective, truly collective approach that we've taken. Knife crime, I don't think, is about the police to solve. It's not about statutory partners to solve or professionals sat around a table. You have to have the community working with you and involving the young people in all those decisions about how that we do that. And we've done that. Of course, we've increased the police enforcement massively, and we will always do that. But it's the education packages that we've got ongoing throughout all the schools and the community buy-in.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to hear more about that in a minute. Of course, the pressure, as you say, is on police to tackle knife crime at a time when resources are tight. One of their key tactics, stop and search, is, of course, a controversial one.
Now, Merseyside and Greater Manchester are among our forces using it more frequently, but critics say it can damage community relations. Victoria Grimes spent the night on patrol with officers in Liverpool. Also with them to watch the police response was a mum whose son was stabbed to death in the city.
We're out and about, we're just going to do a bit of a search.
Liverpool city centre at night is a difficult challenge for Jill Radcliffe. Her son Sam was murdered here 2 years ago. Her grief still raw, even surrounded by police officers. It's terrifying.
You just don't know what people have got on them, because that night that we were out, I never thought for 1 second that there would be somebody not that far away from us carrying a knife, and that knife killed Sam.
Sam died from a stab wound to the heart just 2 days after his 21st birthday. He'd been celebrating with friends in a bar when he was attacked. Tonight, Jill wants to know what police are doing to help stop it happening to anyone else.
Okay, you've stated to me that you've got sharps on you, okay? Tell me exactly what those sharps are, please.
When that was happening then, my heart was racing, because it's so very real for me.
This time, no knives were found. Stop Search has its critics, but Merseyside police say it's helping them to tackle knife crime.
Just over 1% of all complaints actually relate to Stop Search, so the public are happy with what we're doing, provided we do it in the right way. It is clearly a powerful tool. It's something that we need to use, and we have actually recently on 2 occasions had members of the community who've been subject to Stop Search saying we don't carry knives anymore because we know that you're out more and you're likely to stop us more. So what we have to do then is combat that to work out, well, if they're not carrying them on the person, are they hiding them in places?
Officers search in case any weapons have been stashed elsewhere. And it's not just on the streets where they may be concealed.
What about girls? I've heard that girls do carry knives for lads.
In the handbags, yeah, we have had that a lot in the city centre, and like I said, we have to adjust our tactics accordingly. Female officers making sure that we can do those searches.
It's not just a police issue, we can't solve it on our own, we rely on everyone. We really need the help of the public to tell us who's carrying weapons, where they're keeping them, where they're getting them from.
What I want people to see is, that it could happen to you, so we all need to pull together and we all need to try and do what we can.
We're now just minutes from the bar where Sam was stabbed. For Jill, it's too painful to go closer. But she's watching another Stop and Search to see for herself what's being done to help keep her city safe.
I was going to check in inside, mate, if you wouldn't mind just widening your stance for me.
I want to know that the people, the kids that are coming out into Liverpool city centre are being looked after. I'm out here tonight and I'm watching all these kids, but it should be my son that's here, but he's not. And I'll never see him again, and that's the reality of it.
So brave of her to go out on patrol with those police officers there. Sarah, Cheshire Police, how much do you use Stop and Search?
We have increased Stop and Search. It's an extremely useful tactic. It's certainly never going to solve this issue, but it can, and it does save lives.
Ginny, would you welcome an increase in the amount of Stop and Search that there is?
Not from the community I'm from, because within, maybe so-called deprived areas, Stop and Search is, for me, maybe a big issue because it could be targeting a group of people, more than another, which makes an issue for communities like mine.
But if you haven't got anything to hide, then you've got nothing to fear, have you?
I know, but sometimes that the police and the police interaction between a young person, you know, it can be not very favourable and do the opposite of what it is that you know.
I think that legitimacy and trust is absolutely vital. And what we do, we have community conversations around Stop Search, and we invite community to come in. They will look at the body-worn cameras about how we do it. And Stop Search is intelligence-led. You know, there is reasons why we search people.
The old bobbies on the beat would have helped a bit with this, wouldn't they?
Absolutely, and we have got officers on the street, but the real success behind this is, again, it's not just about the police, it's about the police and the community. The police need the intelligence, and the intelligence comes from the community.
So we seem to be hearing this over and over again. It's all about the community working together.
Social responsibility.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely. You can't judge your community or the country or where you're from if you're not. What you've got to do is look out the window and think, how am I, as a person, going to make a change, not waiting for other people to make that change.
Is it realistic, though, to have expect someone to have shopped the guy who had a knife who killed your brother?
It's
a hard call, isn't it?
It is. It's a very hard call. It really is. It really is. And
I mean, what would you say to someone watching tonight who maybe knows someone who does carry a knife? What would you say to them?
They need to seriously think. What people don't understand is you can have a million phones, material things, but because they're so desensitised to death, you only live once. Whether that's behind bars or dead, you only live once. You need to make sure your life and your family's life and your friends' life are successful in every single way, shape or form. Once you are dead, you are not breathing. You lose all human rights. The thing I say to the kids when I teach them, I said, do you want to make the change now or when you're on the floor?
Thank you very much. All right, we'll come back to that. OK, well, on Merseyside, the message from police is that we can't arrest our way out of this problem. So what are the options?
Well, Glasgow once had a shocking reputation for knife crime, but achieved a dramatic turnaround by treating it as a public health rather than just a police issue. In a report containing images of street violence, here's Anne O'Connor on a Scottish solution.
The Pipes play in Glasgow. Like Liverpool, it's been European Capital of Culture. But it's also been the murder capital of Europe. World Health Organization figures showed a booze and blade culture had infected the city in 2005.
All we basically worry about is who'll be starving this weekend.
For 15 years since, Glasgow's been fighting that infection, treating it as a public health issue, like a disease whose first signs might be addicted parents or expulsion from school. I've come to find out how the Violence Reduction Unit here has cut crime by curbing its causes.
This is about people saying that actually I don't accept this and I want to do something. And that's what we had to do, was to encourage this belief that actually you could make a difference, whether it be as an individual or an organisation.
So it involves everyone from the chief constable down to the parents of children throughout the city.
If you find the right people in the right communities and raise them up and raise their voices up, you can start to see things happening, and that's what we had to do.
The streets of Glasgow have become a lot safer in the last decade. Violent crime has more than halved, down from around 1,900 offences in 2008 to around 900 in 2018. Now the government is giving Greater Manchester, Merseyside and Lancashire a share of £8 million to follow the Scottish strategy and hope that it works south of the border too.
On Merseyside, that task will fall to the Police and Crime Commissioner Jane Kennedy, advised by the former head of public health in the North West. Home Office figures show violence is the most common form of crime here.
We have to understand that the police on their own can't eradicate violence on our streets, that the health service, putting people back together, stitching them up, they can't stop this problem either.
What can you do in your own family about behaviour in the family, in your own neighbourhood, what needs to happen in the schools and the workplace?
At this Anfield Boxing Club, youth workers measure success in making sure no one's stabbed in the school holidays. Some spend their own money keeping it going and keeping the kids from the siren call of criminal gangs.
We've got to shout louder than they shout, and we've got to work harder than what they work. We've got to offer more than what they can offer. People lie to them, people promise them this and whatever else. They might get them a pair of trainers, might get them a phone. That stops. After a couple of weeks, that stops and they start getting used and abused and whatever else. We never use them, never abuse, and that's one thing we know.
And it gives you something to like aim towards and keep improving every time you come.
So you don't get tempted by any sort of gang culture?
Don't have time to be honest.
But what if knives had no point, making them pointless as weapons? Liverpool-based Rayware has developed a knife that can't stab, but can still cut.
There's no real reason for the point, apart from if you see pictures of Henry VIII digging his pointed knife into the lump of meat. The easiest weapon to pick up is a kitchen knife. So this will help make people's lives safer.
Another part of the public health approach, a belief that knife crime is preventable, not inevitable. Anne O'Connor, ITV News.
So after that, finally, I think I'd like to know what each of you would do. What one thing would you do to reduce knife crime, Nicole?
To get the knowledge out there that there's no such thing as just a wound. When you pick up a blade or someone picks up a knife, that could lead to a wound which can then lead to a fatal hemorrhage. And then the knowledge on how to stop that hemorrhage is equally important, similar to the Knife Savers campaign that we have in Liverpool.
OK, Sarah.
Just that this is everybody's business and everyone can do something to help this issue by a collective approach, working together.
Well, Mama Knows Best, we're looking about the opportunities within our area and how to actually just build social and economical growth within communities, deprived areas.
Thank you. And what about you, Byron?
I just want to keep educating the kids as I am now and making, make sure they make the change now before it's too late, and then showing them they don't want to feel like my mum does and my family does after losing John Joe.
How often do you think about him?
Sorry, every day.
Thank you all for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for all of that. I'm sorry, Byron, I know how upsetting it is for you. Thank you ever so much for coming in. Why do you make the decision to come and talk to us tonight?
I do everything I can. I go to other rallies, I work Saturdays, Sundays, I work every single day. It's not work to me, this is my life. I work for my brother's legacy.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Well, the whole subject of how to stop people carrying knives is an issue that we're exploring further in our podcast From the North.
In it, we'll hear about children as young as 8 carrying knives and how a whole town in mourning stopped its young people in their tracks. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts.
A final thought from us tonight. If the North West is going to get a grip on knife crime, as we've heard, education might be the key to the future, but it's also communities themselves, people like you and me, who have to persuade our young people to put down their knives. Good night.
Good night.